Part 15. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 141. The next day, Feng Qingxiu steamed 2 pots of wild vegetable lautu with black noodles and made some wild shepherd's purse dumplings. Add some chopped oil residue to make the dumpling filling extra fragrant. Some of it was kept at her home, and the rest was sent to the Lu family, along with other food that she had taken out from the space in advance, because she brought Feng Qingyun with her this time and it was not convenient to take it out halfway. The weather is getting warmer, and before the spring plowing has begun, every household is busy digging wild vegetables to fill their stomachs, and the same is true for the second uncle's family. Unexpectedly, when the 2 sisters arrived at the cowshed, they saw Chenming and Su Aiguo busy helping Lu's father cut grass. Behind them were piles of tall weeds, corn stalks, sweet potato vines, etc. that had not been eaten in the winter. Chenming pressed down the handle of the guillotine with one hand. He caught a glimpse of Feng Qingxiu and immediately stopped. "My brothers and sisters are here. Uncle Lu, come out quickly, my brothers and sisters are here." Although Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu are not married, they are still a younger brother and sister. He once told his wife Xiaohong that except Feng Qingxiu, no one was worthy of Lu Zhang. If Lu Zhang dared to be sorry to her, he would have to be unable to hold his head up for the rest of his life. What a good girl she is. She can take care of the family and the children, and take care of her comrades, relatives, and friends. And still cares about him on the battlefield. Su Aiguo also knew that he envied Lu Zhang a lot. Father Lu hurriedly walked out with an enamel jar with 5 red words "Serve the people" printed on the white background. When he saw that it was Feng Qingxiu with his sister, he was extremely happy. "Girl Shui is here, come here quickly, have a drink of water and rest." After changing hands, he thrust the enamel jar that was going to be handed to Chenming, Su Aiguo, and the others into Feng Qingxiu's hands. At the same time, he took the backpack and bamboo basket that Feng Qingxiu brought, and his hands suddenly sank. "You kid, you have sent so many things here again. I have told you many times, the food at home is enough, I just need to make do with what I have to fill my stomach, don't work too hard especially." He already knew from Chenming's mouth everything about his son's battle and Feng Qingxiu's words and deeds afterwards. To be honest, he had no choice but to send his son to join the army. As long as he went to war, life or death would be uncertain. He had only one son left. Wasn't he sad? It's sad, but someone else's son is also on the battlefield, so he can't show it. Brother Chen and the patriotic brothers are here to help Uncle Lu work. I'm going to cook 2 dishes and have a good lunch. Thank you for your hard work. Father Lu sent the things to the kitchen. What's the trouble? You're too kind. It was getting late. Feng Qingxiu entered the kitchen, put on an apron and got busy. She didn't know that Chenming and Su Aiguo were coming, so she only prepared some pancakes, steamed buns, pickles, salted duck eggs, etc. for Lu's father, grandson, and grandson. After all, the weather was getting warmer and many foods were not suitable for storage. She pretended to take something out of the basket, but in fact she took out a piece of bacon and a bag of spiced peanuts from the space. After a whole winter of consumption, the Lu family had no vegetables left. Feng Qingxiu searched for a long time before cutting a handful of garlic sprouts from a broken vat in the corner. At noon, she used the garlic sprouts to fry a plate of eggs, fried a plate of bacon with red pepper and ginger slices, and boiled and chopped the salted duck eggs. Another plate was opened, and then another plate of spiced peanuts was put in. It was also rich and fragrant, and the stomachs of Chenming and Su Aiguo were growling after they finished their work. "You're done, wash your hands and eat." After the water in the pot boiled, Feng Qingxiu poured down the dumplings she brought. After the dumplings were cooked, they were taken out. Feng Qingxiu left a plate for Lu Tianjun, who was not coming back at noon, and the rest were served on the table. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 142. Although men and women are now equal, and efforts are made to break the feudal dross, many places still retain the tradition that when guests come to the house, the men serve the table and the women do not, but the Lu family does not. Father Lu, Chen Ming, and Su Aiguo waited until Feng Qingxiu finished her work and asked her to sit down before eating. Feng Qingxiu first brought some dishes to her sister and Lu Tianzi, and then she ate with her chopsticks and listened quietly to what they said. At first, their topics were about trivial matters such as family. After the two children with smaller appetites finished eating, Lu's father sent Lu Tianzi to take Feng Qingyun out to play. They talked about various situations in the city, and brought out Chen Ming and Su Patriot brought to Lu's father the newspapers that Lu's father had read, and asked Lu's father to analyze the country's attitude and future policies based on these, and he often hit the nail on the head. Feng Qingxiu discovered that many of Lu's father's guesses about the country's subsequent development were very accurate. How to describe this feeling? It feels like there is a wise man in the family, Zhuge Yang, who is very clever and calculating. Sometimes, Father Lu actually accurately predicted what was about to happen. If Feng Qingxiu hadn't read some information about this era in the space, he wouldn't have been able to tell it at all. I have told you long ago that every time the troubled times end and a new country is established, it will experience a period of political turmoil. Without exception, we are born in this era and cannot participate in it. We are all small people, and our influence is minimal. We can only bear it and wait, without being able to control it. In the past 2 years, natural disasters and man-made disasters have been severe, and those who are fighting for fame and wealth cannot take action. You just wait and see. After 3 to 5 years, there will be a big turmoil. Great turmoil sweeping the country. After hearing what Father Lu said, Su Aiguo asked eagerly with Feng Qingxiu's admiring eyes on Father Lu, "Uncle Lu, what should we do? How can we avoid danger and ensure the safety of our family?" Father Lu thought for a while and replied, "You guys have good grades and you are all retired soldiers. Now you are all working in top jobs. Don't worry. What you should worry about is probably those with bad grades, such as my family. I guess, someone will definitely make a fuss about the ingredients. In fact, there are already clues in this regard. The ingredients are bad. What should you do?" Chen Ming asked worriedly. "Don't worry," Father Lu waved his hand, "the higher up, the greater the impact, and the further down, the smaller the impact. Aren't all the major events in the past and present caused by the upper class? They are related to their interests. The Wang Tower is located in a remote place. The news is lagging behind, which is enough for me to be prepared. Let's just listen to what the higher UPS say, and just don't screw around. It's better to survive than anything else. Besides, Shui Yetu's uncle is the captain and party secretary, and he has a kind nature. Now that we are relatives, they will definitely protect our family." Feng Qingxiu nodded secretly. During this time, she also saw that Father Lu was calm and composed, but he was actually fully prepared. The Wanglu Brigade had her own uncle, who was nostalgic, kind-hearted, and incapable of doing anything ungrateful. She accidentally heard her aunt gossiping and accidentally said that her uncle could become a party secretary, and her father Lu played a big role. There are Lu Jiang's comrades in the city. If there is any movement above, they will know about it earlier than Wang Lu and will definitely inform Lu's father first. From the fact that Lu's father hid his family's property in advance, it can be seen that this old man has a mentality of taking precautions before they happen. This mentality has allowed him to avoid upcoming disasters many times and turn danger into safety. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 143. Thinking of this, Feng Qingxiu suddenly felt a little ashamed. She had made suggestions to Father Lu before, but in fact, he had already been prepared. Now that I think about it, I was really a bit of a trickster at the time. He came from half a century later, and all he relied on were the records in the data, but Father Lu was really living in this era where everything was waiting for things to happen and there were dark clouds gathering, and he summarized the bleeding experience based on his own experience. The layout is different, and the things you see are also different. You still have to learn, and you must learn, even if you make a little progress every day, it is worth it. Feng Qingxiu quietly listened to the discussion of the current situation and made plans for the future. She kept it in mind to learn their perspective on affairs and their methods of analyzing trends, and tried to turn it into her own knowledge. Towards the end, Chen Ming suddenly said, "Uncle Lu, what you asked me to inquire about seems a bit vague." Father Lu was shocked. "Is there any news?" Chen Ming nodded and glanced at Feng Qingxiu. "It's okay. Tell me, girl Shui is not an outsider. Many things at home are done by girl Shui." Father Lu has long regarded Feng Qingxiu as one of his family members. Even in front of outsiders, he said this to Feng Qingxiu. Qingxiu said, "I asked you, Brother Chen, to inquire about Tianjun's grandfather's house. If anyone is really alive, we will have to trouble you to check for us. We will attract too much attention." Feng Qingxiu hurriedly said, "This is a big deal. How can we say it's troublesome or not? A single tree cannot make a forest. In this world, you help me and I help you. Brother Chen, just come out." Chen Ming secretly praised him and no longer had anything to hide. After Tianjun's uncle died, his grandfather and grandmother were both sad and angry, and they passed away not long after. "I know about this. Can you tell me if there is anyone else in his family? I remember that Tianjun's uncle had a child, who was about the same age as Tianjun. Later, it became busy and chaotic. Our family had too much time to take care of itself. It would be difficult to find out more." Father Lu said. Chen Ming nodded. "I found out that the child is still alive." Upon hearing that the child was alive, Father Lu's face suddenly showed a hint of joy. "Really? That's great. Where is he now?" "That child's name is Guancheng, right?" "Yes, it's called Guancheng." Chen Ming sighed. "I found out that Aunt Tianwan had remarried, so I asked someone to find out where she was married. Only this year did the news come. It turned out that when his aunt remarried, she was still pregnant with Uncle Tianjun's posthumous child, and she also carried the child with her. Things are not going well in Guancheng right now. The two brothers were kicked out by that family and are wandering around. The younger one is called Guan Yu and he is about the same age as Tianzi. You have a younger brother." Father Lu felt sour in his heart. He could completely imagine the desolation of the two children struggling to survive. "Where do they live? We have to bring them back. No matter what, we can't let the two children wander outside. What should we do if something goes wrong? Uncle Tianjun is dead, and our family can't just sit back and watch no matter what happens." Chen Ming mentioned a location. When Feng Qingxiu heard it, she knew it was in another nearby county. She had gone to the black market there to resell supplies and exchanged a lot of things and money. "I know that place. Brother Chen, please tell me the specific address. I will go there tomorrow. It's easy to find a place where they live. It's the Guanlai temple next to his mother-in-law's house. It's now shabby and dilapidated. The two brothers usually live there and go out to beg for food during the day." Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 144. The Lu family were relatives of the Guan family and had certain responsibilities for raising their brothers when Guanzhen's mother gave up on them. Feng Qingxiu was soft-hearted and pitied the two helpless children. If she hadn't been soft-hearted, she wouldn't have taken them in. There were so many things going on, and she couldn't even count the number of people she had saved when she went out. After asking for the exact address of Guanchen's territory, and asking Lu's father for evidence that could prove her identity to Guancheng, she cleaned up the kitchen after the meal and left with her sister. After leaving the bullpen, he did not go home directly, but went to Wangjiankuo. It's not the same thing to come to the Wanglu Brigade and not go to my uncle's house. Unexpectedly, when they arrived at Wang Zhenqiu's country, the door was locked and clanging. When I asked the neighbors, they didn't know where Wang Zhenqiu's family had gone. They could only answer Feng Qingxiu, maybe they went to visit relatives. It is quite normal to visit relatives when there is no busy farming season. Feng Qingxiu turned around and went to her aunt's house. She happened to be picking wild vegetables to bask in the sun at the door of the yard. When she saw the two sisters coming over, she quickly waved her muddy hands. "Shui, come in quickly." "Auntie, why is there no one at uncle's house?" Feng Qingxiu asked while sitting and helping choose wild vegetables. Wang Fengjiao looked around and whispered, "I'm telling you, don't tell anyone. I have a very strict mouth, and my aunt will speak out if she has anything to say. Your uncle's family, Jiao Xiao, doesn't want to marry Zhang Yuejin, who proposes marriage to their family, and the quarrel is fierce. Your uncle, De Jinzi, is not willing to indulge him this time no matter what, and has already agreed to the Zhang family's proposal." Jiao Yi got angry and ran away from home, stole a bunch of stamped letters of introduction, and seemed to have taken away all the money and things your aunt had hidden in the box. When talking about the letter of introduction, Wang Fengjiao said the word steal. When it came to money and things, she was embarrassed to say it. Even the word get couldn't cover up the fact that Wang Jiao stole. Wang Fengjiao was also angry. No matter what, she was her natal niece. How embarrassing would it be to spread the word? In the past, Wang Jiao seemed to have a bad temper, but she was not a bad boy at all. But she changed as she grew older. Fortunately, Wang Jiao refused to marry Lu Zhang, otherwise, if such a girl came to the Lu family would not be able to so angry. Looking at the niece in front of her, and thinking of her niece's filial piety during this period, Wang Fengjiao thought it was better to be her niece. Feng Qingxiu was stunned after hearing what her aunt said. Wang Jiao ran away from home. Feng Qingyun opened her small mouth and wanted to say that Wang Jiao wanted to steal her brother-in-law, so she was unwilling to marry Zhang Yuejin, a butcher, so that her aunt could attack her cousin. Suddenly, she thought of the stern way her sister usually taught her, and she was very surprised. He quickly closed his mouth, lowered his head to choose vegetables, and pretended not to hear anything. "That is to say, my uncle is not at home to find his cousin," Feng Qingxiu said, while she was wondering where Wang Jiao would go. "You're not going to find Lu Zhang, are you?" Although outsiders don't know the general address of Lu Jiang's army, Lu Zhang often sent letters and telegrams to send things. Many times, Wang Zhenqiu went to pick them up. It's not surprising that Wang Jiao knew the address. Wang Fengjiao shook her head, "I must be looking for her. As for where to look, I don't know." After a pause, she continued, "Jiao used to run to her grandma's house when she was angry, and it should be the same this time. Your eldest sister-in-law and your uncle will go and have a look. If a girl doesn't want to get married, what can't she say? I have to run away from home, alas." Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 145. Feng Qingxiu listened to her aunt quietly without making any comments. Wang Jiao coveted Lu Zhang. She never understood why, but she didn't take it to heart. As long as Lu Zhang was determined and with his ability, he would not give Wang Jiao an opportunity. Looking back, I wonder, why did Wang Jiao insist on marrying Lu Zhang? Previously, Wang Jiao felt that the Lu family's status was not good, and she was unwilling to obey her father's wishes. She ran to her grandmother's house in anger, and then her uncle found her and wanted to tell her to Lu Jiang, but she didn't expect that the meeting would happen. Now that Wang Jiao no longer disliked the Lu family, Feng Qingxiu felt that she should pay attention to the reason that made her change her mind. Somehow, she had a feeling that the reason why Wang Jiao became like this was very important. Since the uncle and the eldest sister are not at home, I will go back with Yun Yun. When my cousin has news, I will ask someone to send me a message, so I can rest assured. After helping Wang Fengjiao choose wild vegetables, Feng Qingxiu stood up. Upon seeing this, Feng Qingyun immediately followed and stood beside her. Wang Fengjiao waved her hand. Okay, you can go back. On the way home, Feng Qingyun said unhappily, Sister, cousin, what does she want to do? I don't know either. She is under the care of her uncle and sister-in-law, so we don't care about her. I want to go out tomorrow. The journey is very long. If I leave early, I will definitely come back late. How about I put you at the second uncle's house to sleep for one night? Okay. I'll pick you up when I get back. After listening to Feng Qingxiu's words, Feng Qingyun asked, which second uncle's family? We have several second uncles. That's the second uncle who is the branch secretary. There are elderly people in the second uncle's family, so I can rest assured that you are left there. The adults in the second aunt's family go out to dig wild vegetables and hunt pigweed every day. There are no adults watching over you, so I don't worry. Sister, can't I go with you? Feng Qingyun said. Feng Qingxiu stopped and knelt down to look at her level. You are too small and can't walk very fast. When you grow up, as long as you are willing, I will take you with me wherever I go. You are waiting for me at home now. Okay, good. Then what are you going to do? I'm going to pick up two people, Tianjun and Tianzi's cousins. Uncle Lu can't get away, so I'm going to take a walk. Feng Qingxiu said it calmly, and did not say that the two brothers from Guancheng and Guanyu were now wandering orphans, living in a ruined temple, because children sometimes inadvertently said words that made each other heartbroken, but the one who spoke children are indeed innocent, so try not to let them know the pity of Guancheng and Guanyu. Listening to Chen Ming's advice, Guancheng would rather take his younger brother to beg for food than beg for mercy at his stepfather's house, which shows that he has a very strong self-esteem. Maybe Guancheng's stepfather's family also said some unpleasant things. A child's sympathy can sometimes be a hurtful blade to the person being sympathized with. Feng Qingyun was very smart and sensible. When he heard that he was going to pick up Tianjun Tianzi's cousin, he stopped pestering his sister. He let her sister take him to Feng Xuanzu's house that night, and also brought a bag of Laodu as Feng Qingyun's. Of food. Just send the child here. What kind of food can I bring? Feng Xuanzu said unhappily. Feng Qingxiu hurriedly smiled and said, don't look at such a young girl, she eats a lot, it's already disturbing you and grandma to watch her. How can you let your family provide for her to eat? My family now has Lu Jiang's help. Life is not as difficult as before, just accept it. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 146. Even with the food that Feng Qingxiu secretly obtained, Feng Xuanzhao didn't dare to let the people in the brigade eat with open stomachs. So far, some families just couldn't survive, so he was kind enough to provide them with some coarse grains. Get through it. Food is not given for free, it must be accounted for and paid off with work points in the end. As party secretary, Feng Xuanzu's family was having a hard time, so Feng Xuanzu's wife immediately smiled and said, Shui, your uncle and I will accept it. You can safely put Xiaoun in my house and promise not to let anyone if someone touches her finger, there are about 10 of them in one round. How many can little Feng Qingyun eat? After all, the rest is for their family. Feng Qingxiu returned home and set off very early the next day. It's too far away. If you want to get back the same day, you have to be on the road at 4 or 5 o'clock. I walked on the mountainous roads on the way. I found no one riding a bicycle on the flat roads, so I made breakfast on the road. I took out the hot white porridge and steamed buns directly from the space, hurriedly and slowly arrived at the destination at 90 o'clock. Along the way, she realized that there were so many orphans. She didn't dare to look carefully, for fear of seeing the soft-heartedness. They were so pitiful and skinny. After repeated inquiries, I found the ruined temple that Chen Ming mentioned, but I saw a lot of children, big and small, inside and outside. There were about a dozen, the older was in his teens and the younger was 5 or 6 years old. They were in ragged clothes and unkempt. Most of them were "It's a girl." Suddenly, I saw a woman wearing a plaid coat appear in front of the temple. The children looked at her with watery eyes. Feng Qingxiu felt sad and almost shed tears. She turned around and took off her backpack and reached in. In fact, she took out more than a dozen cereal grains from the space. She didn't dare to take 2 good ones for fear of attracting attention, and then she moved towards them. Waved, "Come here, I'll give you something to eat. Can you tell me where Guancheng and Guanyu are?" As soon as they saw the food, the children ran to her like crazy, looking up at the steamed buns she took out. "Tell me first where Guancheng and Guanyu are." An older girl pointed to the straw pile in the corner of the ruined temple. "Guancheng is there. He is sick and has a severe fever. His brother went out to ask for help, but he hasn't come back yet." The other children nodded and said, "Guanyu is going to beg his mother. I don't know if it will help." "It's definitely useless," said the older girl. "Why won't Guanyu's mother beat and scold him and Guancheng? Call them the black brats of the stinking old Jew. It's better to die. His mother now has 2 baby, I don't care about them." Yet, after hearing other people's echoing words, Feng Qingxiu felt very uncomfortable. She quickly gave the cornbread to them, and then she arrived in front of the straw pile in 3 steps and 2 steps at a time. She saw a pitifully thin child with a red face and looked at him. His appearance was not much better than the Feng Qingyun she saw for the first time, and he didn't look like a child around the same age as Tianzi at all. As soon as Feng Qingxiu touched his forehead, it was hot, and she immediately got busy. She took out the children's antipyretic medicine from the space in the backpack, and took out the military kettle that Lu Zhang had sent her from the backpack, and then picked up the feverish person. The confused child started to feel light. He stuffed the medicine into his mouth and drank some water. Feng Qingxiu had experience in taking care of children. She kept holding his chin to keep him tilted up. Maybe he was very thirsty, but he swallowed even the water and medicine. After swallowing, he licked the corners of his chapped mouth. Feng Qingxiu fed him some water again. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 147. Feng Qingxiu just knelt and sat on the straw pile, hugging Guanyu. Guanyu's forehead was hot, but he was afraid of the cold. His thin and small body was shivering constantly. The tattered clothes were not enough to resist the spring cold. Feng Qingxiu reached into his backpack and took out a cotton jacket placed in the space and wrapped it in it. On him. In her free time, besides reading and practicing calligraphy, she would make clothes using the fabrics stored in the space. The fabrics chosen are all those that have appeared so far. When I was looking for things for Lu Zhang, I sorted out the space and dug out more than a dozen packages of fabrics, clothes, shoes, socks, and labor protection supplies that were cheaply processed by manufacturers. Each large package was as big as a small mountain, and they could basically be used in this era. With the warmth of Feng Qingxiu and the thick cotton padded jacket, Guanyu gradually stopped shaking so much. The older girl carefully hid the remaining half of the Waodu in her pocket and saved it for tomorrow. Then she squatted next to Feng Qingxiu, looked at Guan Yu who was wrapped in a cotton jacket with envy, and said, "Sister, who are you from the Guan Yu family? You are so kind to him. We have lived here with Guancheng Guan Yu for several years, and no one has seen him." "How many years have Guancheng and Guan Yu lived here?" Feng Qingxiu only heard the sentence. "Yes, not long after Guan Yu was born, Guancheng often took him to live here. It was Guancheng who gave him the name Guan Yu. There was no place for them to live in his stepfather's house, so he called Guancheng to work during the day. Kicked him out at night, and Guancheng never had a sip of water from their house. Many people starved to death in the past 2 years. My father and mother didn't want me anymore. They thought I was wasting food, so I came out to beg for a living with them. Cheng has been living here with Guan Yu and has never returned to his stepfather's house." Feng Qingxiu's face looked very ugly. It seems that what Chen Ming asked people to find out is not entirely the truth. Guancheng and Guan Yu were not recently kicked out of their homes and became street children. Instead, they had been living outside from beginning to end, with no one to care for them, no one to care about them, and all relying on their own efforts. "Sister, you haven't answered me yet. Who are you? You are so kind. You give us something to eat when you come. We haven't eaten such delicious food in a long time. Now we go outside to dig wild vegetables to eat?" asked the older girl. Feng Qingxiu smiled slightly. "I am a relative of the two brothers. I asked someone to come over after asking about their whereabouts." "That's so kind of you. Now every household has no enough food to eat, and you are willing to come to them. You are really the best person in the world. What's your name? How old are you this year?" Feng Qingxiu looked at the girl in front of her. She was sallow and thin, and her clothes were ragged, but her eyes were as flexible as dot paint. The girl smiled sheepishly. "I don't have a name. My father and mother call me Arya. My surname is Zhang, Zhang Arya." After saying his name, Zhang Arya remembered another question asked by Feng Qingxiu, and then replied, "I am 12 years old this year, and I came out to beg for food when I was 10. A 10-year-old girl was kicked out of the house? How cruel are parents! There are many children, big and small, in the ruined temple. Why did they end up here?" Unconsciously asking the question in his heart, Zhang Arya followed Feng Qingxiu's gaze and looked at the group of children who were licking the buns and couldn't bear to eat it in one bite, and whispered, "Actually, we have settled it, but they were kicked out, not eaten. Some hungry people gave each other's children to be cooked." Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 148. Feng Qingxiu suddenly fell silent. She had seen such fragmentary records in the information. Some people even said that eating human flesh could cure edema, which is edema all over the body caused by hunger and malnutrition. That's why she helped the Kahua Brigade get such a batch of food a few years ago. Once when she was walking in the Kahua Brigade, she happened to see someone looking at a child with a particularly terrifying look. Feng Qingyun was well fed, clothed, and warm, and now she was plump. This kind of gaze had fallen on her more than once or twice. This was also the reason why when she couldn't take Feng Qingyun out with her, she entrusted her to the care of the elders in the clan. She also gave her many instructions before leaving. She was worried because she was afraid that someone would be very hungry when she was not at home. He took Feng Qingyun away and ate him. "You kids live here alone, haven't you been watched? It's better to have a father and a mother. A child without a father, a mother, and no supporter is simply a delicacy in the eyes of a group of hungry wolves." "Yes. But what can we do? We are all children." A trace of sadness flashed in Zhang Arya's eyes. Xiao Ni and Gauden disappeared in the winter. Some people said that they froze to death on the road when they went out to beg for food. Some people said they starved to death, but I knew they might have been eaten. From then on, Guancheng told us not to separate, go out together when begging, and spread out to beg from different families, never from the same family together. Beg for food, and then come back together, just to have enough water and not starve to death. Feng Qingxiu didn't know what to say, but she knew that no matter what she said, it would seem so feeble in front of an innocent child. Changing children to eat has appeared in history books. In the past, I had no feeling when I saw such a record, but now I understand that the 4 words change children and eat food are easy to write, but they contain the lives of countless innocent people. Zhang Arya suddenly asked, "Sister, are you here to pick up Guancheng and Guanyu?" "Yes, I want to take them home and raise them well. This is also Father Lu's wish." These 2 children were the only ones left in the Guan family. Missing brother Tianjun's mother, the Lu family could not ignore it no matter what. "That's great," Zhang Arya was extremely envious, but there was no jealousy in his eyes. "Those like us wandering outside are just like those lonely ghosts. Being able to have a home is really a blessing that we have cultivated for several lifetimes." A young man squatting in the sun at the entrance of the ruined temple suddenly turned to them and said, "Guancheng is back." As soon as she heard that Guancheng was coming, Feng Qingxiu looked directly at the door. A young man who was about the same age as Lu Tianjun but was so thin that he was disfigured limped in. His clothes were in tatters and he was no different from the children present, except that his nose was bruised and his face was swollen, and there was still blood on his face that had not been wiped clean. When Guancheng came in, he saw Feng Qingxiu holding his younger brother, and shouted, "Who are you?" After shouting loudly, he sped up and ran to Feng Qingxiu. When he reached out to grab his younger brother, he noticed that his younger brother was wearing a cotton-padded jacket and his face was much calmer. His outstretched hand stopped in mid-air, staring blankly at the clothes. Feng Qingxiu was well dressed, and her wolf-like eyes were filled with doubts and defensiveness. Zhang Arya quickly stood up and held his hand. "Guancheng, don't worry, this sister is very kind and gives us food as soon as she comes. She said she is a relative of your family, and she heard about you and Guan Yu's whereabouts will come to take you home." "Relatives? Impossible. Except for me and Guan Yu, everyone in my family has died long ago." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 149. Hearing Guancheng say that he had no relatives, Zhang Arya was stunned for a moment by the firmness of his tone. He looked at Guancheng, then at Feng Qingxiu, with a confused look on his face. "Who is this relative? Or not?" Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, "My surname is not Guan, my surname is Feng." "Surnamed Feng? Although I was not very old when my father died, I have memories. There are no relatives named Feng in my family," Guancheng said as he walked to his younger brother, knelt down and carefully touched his forehead. Noticing that the temperature had dropped, a smile finally appeared on his face, and his attitude towards Feng Qingxiu's words was no longer so harsh. "You have a relative named Lu, don't you?" After listening to Feng Qingxiu's words, Guancheng blurted out, "Aunt." Soon, he shook his head, "No, no, things happened at the same time between my aunt's family and my family. Not long after my father died, I heard that my aunt also passed away. His mother had not remarried at that time, so she could occasionally hear. I heard a few words about my aunt's house. He has seen everything that has happened over the years. When the Guan family fell into such a fate, the Lu family, who was classified as a big landowner, did not hesitate to make concessions." Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, "You are very smart, Guancheng, really. You are also very strong and capable. You have to raise your younger brother at a young age, and your memory is obviously beyond ordinary people's imagination. I will tell you to be honest, Tianwan and Tianzi are your aunt's 2 sons, and they are looking forward to your reunion. I know cousin Tianwan. He is a few months younger than me. Is Tianzi the younger cousin born to my aunt the year the accident happened? If it is not related to the Lu family, he will not tell the names of Lu Tianwan and Lu Tianzi. Guancheng believed it 3/3 of the time. Yes, that child's name is Tianzi. He is very cute and beautiful. I heard he looks like your aunt. If your brother is raised well, he will also be very beautiful. Guancheng shook his head and said, we are in a situation like this. We don't even have enough food to eat. How can we survive? It's good if we can survive. Feng Qingxiu still hugged Guan Yu with one arm and stretched out her other hand towards him. Come with me, Guancheng. Although we adults can't afford you fine clothes and food, it's better than you two children living in poverty outside. The situation is much stronger. You haven't answered me yet. Who are you? Who are you from my aunt's family? Tianjun Tianzi's uncle is my partner. We have been engaged and will get married when he comes back. Tianjun's grandfather has been asking people to find you, and there was no news about you until not long ago. His old man's situation is very bad. No, it's convenient to come here, so I'm the one looking for you. Do you think I'm your relative? While Feng Qingxiu was talking, she took out a palm-sized gourd from her backpack with one hand. A small gray-brown gourd with a dry gourd vine on the top. There is a protruding word on the belly of the gourd. If you look closely, you can see that this is made by putting a mold on the gourd when it was growing. Grown up. Guancheng took it into his hand and stroked it gently for a moment. This is a gourd I made with Tianwan when I was a child. There are 4 molds, with the words Fu, Lu, Xiao, and 11. The words were written by my father for us, and the molds were made by my grandfather. In the end, there were only Fu gourds and longevity gourds. The gourd of longevity belongs to me, and the gourd of good fortune belongs to Tianjun. It turns out that he kept it when we were 5 years old. Feng Qingxiu nodded. A lot of things happened at that time, and this gourd was not worth anything, so it was saved. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 150. Only at this moment did Guancheng completely believe in Feng Qingxiu. Feng Qingxiu was particularly distressed. In her previous life, the teenage child was at a carefree age. How could he be like now, covered with vicissitudes of life and with an indifferent face, struggling with his younger brother in this famine era? Just to survive? The words survive are easy to write but difficult to implement, especially for 2 helpless children. With the foundation of trust, Feng Qingxiu once again proposed her intention to take them out of here. Hearing this, Zhang area and the other children in the ruined temple all looked at Guancheng, with reluctance in their eyes. The boy who told Feng Qingxiu at the door that Guancheng was back kicked a pillar and said unhappily, "It's a good thing if someone is willing to support Guancheng and Guan Yu. Why are you acting like this?" Yes, yes, it is a good thing for Guancheng and Guan Yu. Now many people cannot afford to eat. If you are willing to feed them and raise them, you are really a good person. If you are not a good person, you will not do this, Zhang area echoed. Some of the younger children were so envious that they still held in their hands the steamed buns that they were reluctant to finish. Feng Qingxiu was particularly sad, really. Seeing these children struggling to survive in this era, no matter how hard-hearted they are, they can't help but soften. How many people are you here in total? Feng Qingxiu asked. Guancheng said calmly, there were originally 19, 3 froze to death the year before last, 1 starved to death last year, and 2 disappeared in the winter. Now counting Guan Yu and me, there are 13 left in total, including 9 girls. He pointed at the boy who spoke before. His name is Zhang He. He is 2 months younger than me. He also has no father or mother. Why are you bringing this up? Zhang He curled his lips, with a rebellious look on his face. Feng Qingxiu took a look, and yes, except for Guancheng and Guan Yu, that is, Zhang He, there was only one boy among the other children. He looked about 7 or 8 years old, with a green face and 6 fingers on his right hand. The others were all girls. In times of famine, girls are always the first to be abandoned. Zhang He was an orphan, and Guancheng and Guanyu had neither father nor mother. Although the reason why the boy ended up here was unclear, it was definitely different from the reason why the girl wasted food and was abandoned. Guancheng followed her gaze and said, "That's Lu Ji. His parents both starved to death, and he is also an orphan." Feng Qingxiu nodded gently and said nothing for a long time. It was easy to take away Guancheng and Guanyu, but she couldn't do it while ignoring the remaining children. When entering and exiting the black market, she couldn't bear to treat adults who had the ability to survive, let alone these children who had nothing to rely on. Relying on the materials in the space, you can definitely afford it. At the beginning, she bought 10,000 bags of flour alone, each bag weighing 25 kilograms. Calculated based on an adult weighing 300 kilograms a year, and calculated over a period of 20 years, it would be enough to supply rations for 80 people. What's more, there are other white rice, whole grains, various foods, etc. After selling the jewelry, she bought a lot of food and put it in the space, but she did not make detailed statistics on the quantity. Besides, they have hands and feet, so it is impossible for them to live without any income for 20 years, and they can also trade fine grains for coarse grains to satisfy their hunger. However, taking them all back is a bit unrealistic and can easily cause trouble. "Guancheng, are you willing to let them go?" Feng Qingxiu suddenly asked Guancheng. Guancheng did not speak and looked at her silently. Zhang He scolded, "Guancheng, are you stupid? Why are you reluctant? You have a good life and the opportunity to leave here, why don't you cherish it? Guanyu is young, if he goes through this a few times, do you think he has a life? We don't have to worry about you. We can survive when you are here, and I can survive with them when you are not around."